Dear distinguished guests, my name is Professor Dr. Mehmet Sukru Guzel. I am the founder and the president of the Center for Peace and Reconciliation Studies. And I am so honored to be invited to participate by video message to the Kashmir Solidarity Day at the University of Kotli, Azad, Kashmir. I am so sorry that I could not be with you because of my works. And I would like to especially say my gratefulness to Professor Shagofta Ashraf for inviting me for this day. And as I know, Professor Shagofta Ashraf for a very, very long time at the United Nations, and I know that she's a convener for Jammu and Kashmir dispute. She's a human rights defender and activist, and my long life friend, and we are working for a long time. Uh, Today, what I would like to tell you by video message is that what I am to say is not a political point of view or my point of view on political basis. I would like to read something from my last article on Jammu Kashmir. I mean, it's my first work to tell the truth in the academic sense, with the title Maxim Elegans Contraria non est audentus, Junadak Jammu and Kashmir. This academic article is printed in the Academic Journal of Regional Studies in Turkey. And what we are to say, it's not a political point of view when we are talking about decolonization, and decolonization is related to the external right to self-determination, and the International Court of Justice accepted as a Jukogans norm. And when Jukogans norm exists, there is the erga omnes responsibility for us. That is, it's not our choice to decide this or that, but what we have to do is it's our obligation to support till the end to the realization of the external right to self-determination of the people. The title of my academic article is Maxim Elegans Contraria non est audentus, because, and I add Junadak and Jammu and Kashmir. In the international law, a state should not be allowed to testify hot and cold at the same time, at the same event on different times. Something you can affirm today and something you can deny tomorrow. What has happened in the past of Junadak is really related academically and under the rule of international law. Today, the problem of Jammu Kashmir and the state of Jammu Kashmir. And as I mentioned, here we do not have we are not with our political choices. We are under the obligation of the international rule of law, and international rule of law can be changing. Slavery was at the time rule of law, but Jukogans norm is the main rule of law that can never be changed and that can never be derogated. And let me begin. The UN was formally introduced to Kashmir problem on 30 December 47 when the government of India announced its decision to bring the dispute before the Security Council. And the most important part is that when the states are in the debates of the United Nations Security Council, states are bound by their unilateral declarations during the debates as a source of law within the principle of maxim elegans contraria non est audentus, same as the binding character of the declarations made before the Permanent Court of Justice at the time during the League of Nations time, or International Court of Justice. And all these declarations references to good faith, consistency, or intent to be bound language that supports an estoppel theory. Everybody, I do believe, that knows estoppel. And according to Article 25 of the UN Charter, which obligates members of the UN to accept and carry out the decisions of the Security Council. And when India brought the Kashmir dispute to the UN Security Council, India accepted to carry out any decision of the UN Security Council as well as its unilateral declarations made during the Security Council meetings as an obligation arising from Article 2.2 of the UN Charter as a principle. And now, when we come to the past, India proposed that the future of the UNADA to be determined by the people via referendum or plebiscite. India, during the debates of the UN Security Council, stated that UNADAC was 80% Hindu and called for a plebiscite to decide the question of accession. India repeats its point of view that an important decision cannot surely be taken by the ruler of the princely state without regard to the wishes of its own people. In the debates of the UN Security Council, and the meeting number is 250 and 264. India mentioned that the principle of the verdict of the people for the decolonization process of the princely states, and according to India, an important decision like this cannot be surely be taken by its ruler without regard to the wishes of its people. And India's declaration on Junadak during the UN Security Council meetings are one of the legal background of the resolution of 1951 of the UN Security Council that any determination of the future shape and affiliation of Jammu and Kashmir be made in accordance with the will of the people expressed through the democratic method of a free, impartial plebiscite conducted under the auspices of the UN. So what we say is that the UN Security Council resolution is taken within the wording as a source of law as India mentioned for Junadak. And on 5 August 2019, last year, when India government suddenly announced the revocation of Article 370 of the Constitution, which grants the state of Jammu and Kashmir considerable political autonomy, India acted against the principle of maxim elegans contrary non est audientus. This is the source of law for Junadak. And the Mahajara of the state of Jammu and Kashmir signed the instrument of accession exceeding the 75% of majority Muslim region to the Indian Union, which was vice versa the situation of princely state of Junadak. And as long as the principle is linked to the principle of good faith, and when we comes to the Pacta Sur Servanda related directly, Article 2.2 of the UN Charter, we should see that the Indian government cannot act and say that Article 2.7 of the UN Charter, this is the domestic jurisdiction of India to change the constitution of India on Jammu and Kashmir dispute. Now, because of the source of law related coming from Junadak, and we can see that this is not a domestic jurisdiction. This is the words of the India for Junadak. And maxim elegans contrario non est audientus is an international obligation, is a principle under international customary law. And we have got also one more thing. Illegal acts cannot create any legal results. This is one of the principles. And what I would like to say that, as in the advisory opinion of the Tunis and Morocco national decrees of 1923, the Permanent Court of International Justice stated that whether a certain matter is or is not solely within the domestic jurisdiction of a state is an essentially relative question. It depends on the development of the international relations of the states. And this is, when we talk about the Jammu and Kashmir, we see that it's not under the domestic jurisdictions of India. And what can be say is the words of the Indian government during the UN Security Council meetings. Jammu and Kashmir depends on the verdict of the peoples as Junadak. I would like to say the changement of the constitution of India is defined under international system within the UN system, an international wrongful act of an international wrongful act of a state, and this is related with the Jukogan's norm. And when it is a violation of a Jukogan's norm, it's obligation for the world not to recognize as legal any attempt that violates the rights of the peoples on external right to self-determination. And in this sense, the world has under obligation not to recognize as legal. And what we can do, I mean, any state can take the changement of the statute of Jammu and Kashmir to the International Court of Justice. This is the reality. And the result of the International Court of Justice is open. Will it be a binding decision? This is the important point. Because it can make it as a binding decision. Even the International Court of Justice advisory opinion is within the name as an advisory opinion. But when it is a violation of a Jukogan's norm, then it comes to the obligation of UN Security Council. Because UN Security Council has an other obligation. I don't have so much time. I'm passing my limit. I know that. But we can make it in detail. UN Security Council has also under its obligation of the past debates and under the obligation of the UN Charter And here, what we are to say is that UN Security Council is bound by its own decisions, and it cannot violate the right to self-determination of anybody. And I would like to one more time thank to everybody. And I would like to again say that I want to work much more on Jammu and Kashmir dispute. And I would like to one more time remind that I'm not here for my political choice. I'm a Turkish, we are from Pakistan, and Turkish government supports the Jammu and Kashmir issue. But this is not a political choice. It is an obligation for all the world to support the right to external self-determination of the peoples of the Jammu and Kashmir. This obligation is arising from the UN Charter, and it is a decolonization process. I have to also one more time mention this. Sometimes people are making mistake using the word right to self-determination. The wording of the UN, in the UN Charter, right to self-determination, has nothing to do with decolonization. The wording of the right to self-determination with the concept of Article 73 of the UN Charter is something different. Nothing to do with the wording of right to self-determination in the UN Charter. I do use, and I want everybody to use, right to self-determination within the concept of decolonization related to Article 73 of the UN Charter. I am so grateful for inviting me one more time, and wish you a successful Solidarity Day and a wonderful symposium. Thank you very much.